Works. All right, and then okay, yeah, I'm good. You ready?
Hold on, let me tweet my retro beat that just went live. Now Mikey is ready.
Mikey, ready?
He's got his Coke Zero, his cherry vanilla Coke Zero. He's a fancy
Ooh,
bitch.
ooh.
Oh baby, oh baby.
Well, you got taste buds or something. All right, let's do this. All right, 5, 4, 3. It's the internet. You're busy. Let's do this. Welcome to the GamesBeat Decides podcast. This is the podcast where we decide everything about the world of games so you don't have to think for yourself. I'm your host, Jeffrey Grubb, and with me is...
It's Mike Minotti, not your host.
Mike's here, everybody. Yay!
Yay! Whoa, that's the appropriate level of excitement. I like it.
In today's episode, we're gonna do some news, some games, and stuff like that. But first, I want to check in on Mike. How you doing, Mike?
Oh, yeah, not bad. Everything's been feels much more normalized lately, which I guess is good.
Yeah, I think it's like
I'll take it.
this is the right level of like okay, where I'm like 2 months in, 3 months in. I don't know how long's it been. I've lost track of time. That stuff's still messed up for sure.
It's like a month and a half, about 3 months or so.
Yeah, it's a month and a half or 3 months. Yeah.
Something too. Actually, probably just 2 months.
Yeah. We'll split the difference there. I at this point, it's like if you're dealing with something that long, you're just gonna go back to being who you are beforehand, and I'm definitely in that mode now, where it's just like, all right, I can deal with this. I can deal with this, and that's what we're doing. So, you know what helped was the summit that we did last week, which is why we didn't do an episode last week.
Yeah, it kept us very busy, huh?
Yeah, it was very busy, and it's like, oh, we can still like produce a sort of core product from our company in this world, and it's like, oh, okay, so this is just what we do now. And it was very busy, and it was like it was very rewarding. It all worked out really well. So it was like, okay, this is a world I can see myself living in until I'm over like when things go back to normal. I'm not like that. I don't believe in that anymore. Like if that happens, great. But if it doesn't, I'll deal. And that's definitely where I'm at right now. But yeah, games are also helping with that. We'll get into that. Let's do the credits and then we'll start talking about the news. First, I want to thank everybody for joining us. You can get more from me and Mike at gamesbeat.com. You can email us at gamespluspodcast@venturebeat.com. That's the plus sign. Thanks to Carlos Ayin, who is insane in the Rain Music on YouTube, for the use of our theme song. And yeah, and if you're listening to this on Twitch or watching on YouTube or whatever, or listening on the site, you can of course subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and if you like us, rate us on your Apple Podcast or your podcast catcher of choice, and tell a friend. That helps people find the show.
Who wouldn't like us?
Who and how could they? How could they like us? Is actually the question I want to ask.
First off, how dare you?
How dare I? So we didn't do a podcast last week, but there was a lot more news this week, so there's not a lot to catch up on. So why don't we just like start from like the big stuff from this week with Xbox 2020. We don't have to go over all of this. I wrote down all the games here as a reminder, but like what are you thinking first off?
I'm glad we were briefed on it because so that I could set my expectations for it, right?
Yes, correct. I think that's why I was like not as disappointed as most people, because I'm like, oh, I got the pre-brief. I'm like, oh, this is what this is. I definitely agree with that.
I guess, yeah. I mean, I would not have thought that like the one gimme, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, was going to be like really by far the biggest game that they had to show here.
Mm-hmm.
Like what Dirt 5 seems exciting, I feel like that's a problem.
Right. Yes, I think you're right. So, people, if you want to see the whole list of games, Mike did a good rundown. Check that. It has all the trailers and stuff. You can get that on gamespeed.com. The standout stuff here was stuff like, Dirt 5 runs at 120 frames per second. Is that anything you care about, Mike, or is that just like, okay?
I mean, man, above 60 frames per second, I'm still not super sure if I can notice. Like, I mean, I'm still so jaded from so many games of the last generation being at 30 frames per second. I'm like, let's just get everything at 60 frames per second before you start coming at me with 120 frames for some games.
I agree with that. So, I mean, racing games make a lot of sense for a bunch of reasons. Obviously, like racing is very fast. Someone made a joke on Twitter yesterday where it's like every every racing game is a speedrun game, and I'm like, yeah, I guess that's true.
Well,
You
yeah,
think of it,
I mean, yeah.
yeah. But it's like, so yeah, so like reaction times matter, and you know, if you have more frames, that's, you know, each frame's taking up less time, so you get more information, so you can better react to what's happening. That's great. A faster frame rate would definitely help with that. But it also makes sense because like racing games can't look much better, right? They already look photorealistic.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, right. Like cars, like big, like
Yeah.
big shiny objects that like don't have moving parts are relatively we're good on those,
Yes,
right?
we're very like we have sort of reached the peak there. The wheels aren't going to get any rounder, right? They are as round
Right.
as they're going to get. So you know you can keep putting up the resolution, but even like Forza was running at 4K on the last gen console or current gen consoles for years now. So and that was like 4K 60 frames per second. So what else can you do? It's like, you know, they will find places to like up the graphical effects and stuff, but really it's like faster frame rate just is like, okay, we have all this extra power, what can we do? We can run the game faster. And but like even in that case, it's not like, oh, you're going to plug in your Xbox Series X, turn on Dirt 5 and suddenly get 120 frames per second. Most people's TVs aren't going to work with that in 4K. You have to have HDMI 2.1 to get 4K 120 frames per second. That's a mess. There's only honestly still only a couple TVs that support HDMI 2.1. So I wrote about this on the site, but really, I mean, like, are you? Is there any chance you're going to buy a new TV to go along
No,
with the new consoles?
no, I'm not. No, I'm not gonna buy a new TV, especially with everything going on right now.
Yeah, I mean, yes, absolutely. And I'm like, I don't think that that's going to be a rare sentiment. I think most people are like, I'm not like, of course, I'm not buying a new TV. Like, some people are in the market for a new TV. They just, it lines up right now. And if you are, make sure you get one that has HDMI 2.1 would be my advice. Uh, but I don't think anyone honestly should upgrade just for something like this. First of all, how many games are going to run at 120 frames per second? You said it yourself. We struggled to hit 60 this entire generation.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm even me like you know I'm spoiled in that if I want that kind of stuff I'll just go play on my PC, which I do have that option there.
Right, sure. But I mean, gosh, buying a new console in general is already maybe going to be a tougher sell than usual for some people,
Yeah,
anyway. So yeah, I mean, gosh, there's so much to process with all of that. Did you think like? I mean, there's a lot of games like I did, you know, that I don't know if they were like revealed so much as like we just hadn't heard much about them, but like stuff like Scorn and Medium, did anything like look particularly interesting to you? Like a lot of it, like nothing here looked bad.
right. No, nothing here looked bad. I think that Bright Memory Infinite trailer was pretty interesting, but I guess there's like a Bright Memory already out, and maybe this is an upgraded version or a sequel. I don't know. I haven't actually gone to like look into the details of that.
It's like a lot of it's like we're seeing a lot of red steels. I feel like, right? Like you see those, like
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that's
Dark
neat.
Sectors is was my
Yeah,
joke. Yeah, a lot of Dark Sector
yeah.
twos last night or
Am I actually
yesterday
going
morning.
to buy these games? I
I
don't
mean, you
know.
know, you like the thing about Red Steel, right? Was that you did buy it because it was the only other thing on the Wii when you bought your Wii. So it's like, do these even rise to the level of a Red Steel? And I don't know about that. You know, yeah, I mean, it's disappointing, right? It was just a disappointing showcase for a number of
Well, and
reasons. Like
I mean, even
you're,
these
you
games,
know,
like these aren't like big. Aside from like Yakuza, really, and Assassin's Creed, these aren't like well-known franchises. A lot of these weren't even really big developers or publishers, right? I mean,
yeah,
we
it
have
was the
Bandai
indie. It
Namco
was
with
like an
like
indie
their
showcase almost.
yeah, you know, we have Bandai Namco with like a nice looking anime game, but like a lot of stuff. If you told me like that you know this is a Xbox One game, I would have believed you. And part of that is because a lot of these are Xbox One games, right? Like
Yeah,
that's kind of like the pitch, really, is that these are Xbox One games that are going to look better on Xbox Series X, which is like a cool feature, but it's also kind of like weird in a way.
yeah, but I don't know. I think if all of these games were Xbox Series X exclusive, I don't know how much how different they would look.
Right.
I think
No,
we're
like that's not yeah, I know what you mean. I don't think like they would suddenly look better. I mean, this is more than ever just like really showing that man, that graphical plateau is very
we
real.
are
And
there.
we are there. And I mean, there's still important things to do in terms of I mean, it's a problem right now that in order to make a Red Dead Redemption 2, you need like, you know, 7 years and like hundreds and
Yes,
hundreds of people.
one
So like
hundred
we
percent.
definitely need right. So we definitely need to get to a point where like just making something like that can be easier and more
Yes.
manageable. But it doesn't kind of dilute the fact that we already had that game in a way. And like stuff is nice, like faster load times, ray tracing, whatever. But yeah, we are. It just doesn't quite get the juices flowing right like it used to
Yeah.
for some of these big, like seeing Elijah Wood debut the Xbox 360, right, or seeing
Mm-hmm.
that ridiculous Zelda tech demo for the GameCube, which wasn't even a real game, but it was
Mm-hmm.
like you look at that, you're like, yes, that looks much better than Majora's Mask. I understand it now, right? Like
Yeah.
there's not that moment here.
And that thing you're talking about with Red Dead Redemption 2, it's like, yeah, these are all behind the scenes things. These are in like ray tracing is a big part of that. Ray tracing can make games look better. It can. But we always could have faked lighting that pretty much looked that good. It just took a lot of work. And that's why Nvidia's thing when Jensen, the Nvidia CEO comes out and talks about it just works, and people mock him for that because clearly there's very few games that support it. But it's like, no, the idea is it does just work. And you could just almost turn on a button, and as long as you're using the right materials in a 3D world, the lighting will just work like it does in the real world, and that saves a lot of time. That time will get used for other stuff, so it's not like, oh, games are going to get cheaper to make and all that stuff.
Right.
It's just making a game that looks that good might happen faster. And what we're kind of expecting is that over the next 10 years is we get the same sort of processes applied across the board to like asset creation, where you feed an AI a bunch of ideas and and it spits out a bunch of different assets instead of having to employ hundreds and hundreds of artists, which is like, well, that's pretty scary for the idea of like the art market where people are like, that's their livelihood. But that aside, it's maybe making their lives easier is the idea. But again, this is like, oh, that's great for the people who spend money making games. For us buying games and trying to get excited, it really feels like no one's really trying to push the envelope of what games are going to look like past where we are, really. Yes, they will get more lifelike, they will get more realistic, but it's going to just be small jumps here and there. And that's just the nature of this.
Do you think Microsoft maybe would have been better not? I mean, that's kind of weird thing, like making this like the first big game showcase. Like, why not do your first party thing first and then kind of trot out these smaller games?
Yeah, it's tough, right?
Yeah.
So my understanding from what I heard, I heard this date and I wasn't sure exactly what it would be when I first heard it, but then over time I started hearing like, this is going to be like, this was always meant to be like before COVID. This was always meant to be the overflow for games that weren't going to be part of like the E3 show. But okay, so even from the beginning, why would this be like your first foot forward?
Right. Like, even if this was the plan,
Right?
why is this the plan?
And it's like, okay, so Imran Khan, I was talking with him on Twitter yesterday. Former Game Informer guy. He was like, oh, it logically might make sense because if you put these games after the big showcase, they will get completely ignored. And it's like, okay, yeah. And he wasn't saying like that in like defending this choice. He's just saying like, I get why they might have done this. But then it's like, if that's the case, like that says something about this showcase. Like if they get completely ignored because they're not big enough, and they shouldn't be leading the way.
Right, yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like, if otherwise these games will get ignored, then it's like, well, why would that be?
Right. And it's like, Sony was very big on indie games at the beginning of the PlayStation 4, right? And these weren't all indie games. We say indie games, but not, like, this is shorthand for like the level of excitement people had.
Right. They're kind of a lot of like almost double A games, which is weird because we don't even like really see many of those anymore, right. It feels like, right?
Yeah, and it feels like maybe those are coming back because, again, the tools are getting easier to create these level of games, and a lot of like senior developers have left big publishers to start their own studios, and we're seeing the fruits of that labor. But I think that if you're trying to get people excited about a new system, and that new system is like, if the selling points are load times and the streaming in assets can be faster than ever, and a bunch of stuff that is very hard to demonstrate, and like 120 frames per second, which no one's going to be watching this video presentation that's streaming over YouTube and Twitch and all this stuff at 120 frames per second. You need to get creative, and you need to actually splice in a little bit of explanation for why this thing is important, and it can't just be like the presentation that we got used to from the last couple of E3s, where it's like trailer after trailer after trailer that they did here. And people have been asking them for that for a long time. Just do that like Sony and kind of Nintendo do. And you know, it was an entertaining presentation in terms of like it had good pace and all that stuff.
Yeah, fast-paced.
But you know, in terms of getting people excited to spend $500 or more on new hardware, it feels like a real misfire. It just feels like a wasted opportunity.
Not a lot of sizzle there. What do you think about the whole like everyone's like, what is a gameplay trailer now? Because that's the whole thing. First gameplay, and like everything was in engine, I guess, for a lot of this stuff. Some of it not even, but like the big one here was Assassin's Creed, right? Because it was a gameplay trailer, but like what were we seeing? It was like a bunch of in-game cinematics cut like a movie trailer. And is that like how you sell us on the first next gen Assassin's Creed game right now? I don't think so. Like I think everyone just wanted to see like, well, how is this going to play? What is this going to look like? I wanted like just it like people. I feel like we need to get over this marketing video games like movies thing where we're literally cutting movie trailers. Like we can't show them a HUD or anything because that's not cinematic. Like, well, that's what people are playing. People want to see what that stuff looks like.
Yeah, it's again, it's tough, I think. It's also very weird. It's tough because like I think that Madden trailer was like all gameplay with the HUD and everything, and I didn't think it looked very good. But it's Madden, it's very known quantity and stuff, and it's like if the alternative was doing another thing like they did for the launch of I can't remember the infamous like bullshot Madden trailer.
Yeah, the first 360 one.
That's right. Yeah, that was like, okay, don't do that. Clearly, don't do that. But this like that's just Madden. That's just Madden. Like I know exact like that. I don't think that I could tell the difference if you put them side by side and said that's the next gen Madden. I just couldn't tell anymore. So I don't think that's great either. But for the Assassin's Creed thing, it was very weird because at the beginning of the presentation, I can't remember who it was from Microsoft, but they came out and said, "Oh, we read the interwebs, so it's going to be all gameplay trailers." Because they got a lot of criticism for E3 last year, where it was almost no gameplay; it was all cinematics. There was in-engine stuff, but the in-engine stuff was still cinematically produced, and that stuff like it's just not. It's hard to get excited because we know that those can be cheated. You know that even the in-game stuff, the in-engine stuff, can still be shortcutted around to put in more graphical effects and make it look sharper. So it's just hard to trust any of that stuff. But then to kind of like build that up at the beginning and say we're going to be showing all gameplay because we heard your criticism, and then to have that Assassin's Creed trailer, it's a complete like, oh, what are you doing here? Of course, people are going to fixate on that because you promised one thing and delivered another. I guess I haven't gone to see this myself, but apparently Microsoft and Ubisoft were like, you know what, we actually did kind of mess up there. I think they've come out and publicly said something along those lines.
Right, Aaron Greenberg has said something. So yeah, there is like actually some acknowledgement of it, which in it of itself is kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's like
good, I guess, but man,
right, and I think Microsoft says, "Oh, we read the interwebs," like they said. That hopefully that continues, and like, oh, okay, we actually will make sure we really get this right next time. We're still going to make mistakes. I think Microsoft is. I think people had this expectation that like, oh, Microsoft is so on their game and they are so on top of everything, and they're just going to nail every single thing coming out of the gate here. I've never really had that confidence in Microsoft's ability to sort of roll this stuff out. And it's not like, oh, they're just a bunch of fuck ups. That's not, it's like, I remember when the all digital edition of the Xbox One was starting to get rumored, and people were like, this could come out and be $99. And imagine that, And it was like, they launched, it was like $250. And it was like, I think this is the last time I'm going to let them sort of pull the rug out from underneath me and like think that they're going to really get it like super aggressive and know how to like really nail this stuff. I think they're still just kind of a big lumbering corporation, and they're still going to have their moments where they're like, we're really paying attention, but actually they're just struggling to get their Microsoft Teams software to work, and their meetings are just as a bunch of a mess as anyone else's. So again, my expectations were maybe set lower. But now I think the expectations are lower overall. So if they really do have a slam dunk of a thing coming up soon, it should work out in their favor. I think maybe, I don't know. It's hard to tell. But I mean, how are you feeling about these consoles at this point? Like, I mean, do you have excitement other than like this vague like, oh, I'm supposed to be excited for next generation?
No, I guess not. Which is kind of like I'm not like mad,
No,
but
of
like,
course
yeah, I
not.
guess if I if am I excited? I don't know. I mean, part of the problem is like the vast majority of things I played are PC and Switch, right? And the last major console game I played was Final Fantasy VII Remake, which was like a really good looking game that ran very well. So it was, it was like
Yeah.
I wasn't playing that and be like, man, I can't wait till my games start looking like shit like this, So yeah, man, it's weird. I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess not. I guess I'm not pumped.
Yeah. I mean, I think that consoles need to get SSDs is like my big thing right now. Is this next console
Yeah.
generation has to happen so we could just leave hard spinning platters in the past for good, get past that hump, and then once everyone's on an SSD, we can really kind of get into the future. The CPU is important, all that other stuff. Figuring out ray tracing, great. That's all great. The SSD, I think, is going to make the biggest difference, and they've said as much. And once we're past that point, it's like, okay, I think we are firmly in the future of gaming for quite a long time, where things are just not going to have to change that much, ever again. And I think this generation honestly could last a really long time. This next one coming up, where
I mean, it almost yeah. I mean, like what the heck are we gonna do super differently in another 6 or 7 years,
yeah,
right?
yeah, and it's like, because I think it's going to take a really long time to get games running really well on these multi-core CPUs. I think to take advantage of all those cores. I think that ray tracing will be it's going to be a challenge, I think, no matter what. But I think they're going to have to come up with a lot of software tricks instead of just continuing to cram new hardware into the systems. Like, yeah, put hardware in there to run ray tracing, but figure out the software tricks that actually make it run well. And that's all stuff that they can do without updating the hardware. So I would imagine that PS5 and Xbox Series X are going to last about as long as the Xbox 360 and PS3 that generation, which was like 8 years, 9 years almost. So
Yeah, it was longer. Yeah.
yeah.
So
Um, anything else from this? I mean, like they announced a bunch more smart delivery games, but I don't think we
yeah,
have to go over smart delivery again or anything like
again, I
that.
mean, that's the biggest things they really had to push are like features and like yeah, like kind of like plus things, right? Like smart
Yeah, quality of
delivery
life.
and faster load times. Yeah, quality of life things, right? Which yeah, okay,
Yeah, and like
nice.
uh, again, I think we
I
need to
don't
get
hate it.
there. Yeah, but we need to
Yeah,
get there.
like
We
we
need to
need
get.
these things.
We need these things. Yes, to like really make gaming better, just better for better overall. But it's hard to see that in a trailer. It's really hard to show that off in a press conference. So
Yeah.
I don't envy the position they are in trying to sell these machines,
No.
which are definitely, I think they're definitely gonna, people are gonna end up, I think, really loving these machines more than they did the Xbox One and PS4. As great as the games have been, I think that we will look back on this generation and be like, it was kind of clunky. The load times, like, remember when we did have to have those skinny nooks that people had to crawl through to hide load times? That was kind of weird, actually. That every game had that. I think we'll look back on that and be like, oh, weird. It's odd that we ever did that, but that's
There
going to
are
take
a
time.
lot of nooks in Final Fantasy VII. I'll have
Yep.
to say.
Yep.
I love it. It's pretty nook heavy.
Yes, nook heavy games. I think we'll get over those. The last thing, EA still kind of being EA. So when we did get pre-briefed, like Mike said, and as part of that, it was like, oh, these 9 games support smart delivery, and Madden wasn't in that. And then during the presentation, Patrick Mahomes, Super Bowl winning quarterback's like, if you buy Madden on Xbox One, you can get it for free on Xbox Series X. I'm like, oh, it supports smart delivery, so I updated my smart delivery story. And then EA is like, no. We'll let you
No.
upgrade. We'll let you upgrade for a limited time, as long as you buy the game on Xbox One by December 31st, and then upgrade it on the new system by March 31st of 2021. Then yeah, you could do it for free. And it's like, well, that means I have to definitely get the new system by March 31st, or else I just will miss out on that. And it's like, this is not smart delivery. And they're like, yeah, we're not doing smart delivery. We're doing our own upgrade path. And it's like, Jesus, EA, just come on.
Like I want, yeah, what the heck? Like what's the thinking here? Why
I,
not just do smart delivery at this point?
the only like the most generous rating I can give it is there's maybe some licensing issues with the NFLPA in the NFL or something like that, but probably not. Honestly, probably not. It's probably just EA thinking, uh, we want people to buy the game again, or or we don't want them to buy it used months later for Xbox One and then just have that work on Xbox Series X. We want them to actually pay the extra money when it comes time. So that's probably what it is. So, but it's just
Fine.
EA being EA. So yeah. Okay. Well, speaking of EA, they had their earnings report, and they did have a really strong year and strong quarter, and most of it was thanks to live service games. Mike, are you still like playing like Apex Legends or anything like that right now?
No, I've been playing a lot of still Overwatch and a
Mm.
decent amount of Valorant. Really is my go-to shooters right now. But no, I played a lot of Apex when it came out, but I fell off it after a while. Before that second map came out, I kind of stopped.
Well,
I got my wins and I had my
yeah.
fun.
Yeah, and I think that's a good way to like good relationship to have with these kinds of games. But some people definitely are continuing to play, and that has been a benefit to EA, which is just continuing to chug along thanks to live service games. But as part of that, though, EA is definitely interested in expanding its support of more platforms. They're bringing like the EA Access thing to Steam. So now you can get it through Origins, but if you don't want to download the Origins client, you can subscribe to EA's thing through Steam, and that's going to be that gives it a whole new market to potentially get a ton of money from this service. That is it's almost as good of a deal as Xbox Game Pass and stuff like that. But they also want to like get more games on Switch. And they didn't say like what those games were, but we definitely know they're bringing Burnout Paradise, but I guess they're bringing maybe a number of other games, but I think they're going to start with the live service games like Apex Legends. Is there any other EA game that you think that should come to Switch?
Gosh, I don't know. Maybe
Well, the ones that people always say are like The Sims and Plants vs Zombies and stuff.
The casual stuff, but like Jedi Fallen Order is probably not going
Yeah,
there.
I mean, it struggled on the other systems, but it is Unreal Engine, and Unreal Engine does port pretty well to the Switch. Like all those Unreal Engine games that like have been coming out recently, a lot of them do get Switch ports. I'm blanking on any examples, but I know that's the case. So I think it's possible. But it would like again, the game had some issues on like base PS4 and Xbox One, so maybe that's not worth the effort. And I wouldn't be surprised if Microsoft or if EA was like, that's not worth the effort. So, you know what? The Burnout Paradise Remastered on Switch is $50, and I didn't realize that it launched at $40 on all the other platforms. And now you can get it for like $15, even cheaper when there's a sale. What is EA's? What's wrong with EA? Why does it keep doing this stuff? Like it's not like, of course it's probably not going to sell that well, and they'll use that as an excuse to like not support the Switch. It's like no one wants our games. It's like, homie, it's $50 for a game that's more than 10 years old. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know. EA's always been weird.
EA has always been weird for sure. The company
Expert
said
analysis there. You got that one for free.
Yeah, good. Thank you. That's why we have you on the show. Your looks and your analysis, for sure.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, of course. EA said it's also going to do another HD remaster as part of its like a lineup for the next 12 months. What I've heard is that's Mass Effect, and I put that in my story.
Calling another shot here.
It's right? Yeah, basically, but I mean, it's based on some sources and stuff, and I think are you breaking up? No, you're there. Okay. Yeah, no, I think right. I think it makes sense. That's internet thing. Yeah, that's why I put it in the story, kind of at the end of my story. I'm like, this makes a ton of sense. I think most people are going to guess this, so I'll just I'll confirm it. And it blew up, and I wasn't expecting that. It's like, oh yeah, Mass Effect fans are really into the series, and they're really like desperate to see a sign of life, and that they are responding to this. So there are other remakes in the works at EA that maybe this could be, but my understanding is first up is Mass Effect, and then the team that did Burnout Paradise Remastered is going to work on another one, probably Need for Speed Hot Pursuit, and I'm like, that's a good use of that team. I would like to see that. So, but I don't think that's going to come out before Mass Effect. But either way, Mass Effect's in the works. Just not for Switch, which is where I would want to play it. So
Right, yeah, exactly. If I'm gonna replay Mass Effect 1, 2, and then skip 3, I would want to do it on 3.
yeah, you're gonna so you could play it in 4K on a real console, playing Mass Effect 3 there, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what it is. I do have to
Yeah,
join the mob a little bit. How dare you say remake when you meant remaster?
I know.
You
I can't.
fool.
Maybe I think their wording might have been like HD remake. So
So it wasn't your fault.
I'll have to double check. It could very well have been my fault. But yeah, either way, I meant remaster for sure. But yeah, that's exciting, and I will play those games again if they come out. But it'd be a lot easier if it was on Switch. And then there were the Nintendo earnings, which you guys stayed up late and covered. You and Dean.
I was up real late.
Yeah, any standout news from there that you would want to pick out?
Yeah, Animal Crossing's going nuts, as we all figured. It's sold like what, over like 13 million, something like that already. So it's already like the number 6 best-selling game on the system. I think it's had the best start of any Switch game in general.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's going absolutely crazy. Like we all kind of we already kind of had a sense of that just from some of the U.S. sales data we were getting, but it's real.
And it really is like a Pokemon Go level phenomenon on social media, where like just yesterday the Detroit Lions announced their schedule using Animal Crossing, and it's just an excellent video. They did such a good job with it.
Yeah, it was really fun.
And like it's like they fully understand the game. Like a lot of the jokes were playing on stuff that's in the game, and then also like the Lions beefs with like the Minnesota Vikings or whatever. So it's like people aren't just like necessarily just hopping on this for whatever. It's like people who play the game are also in these jobs as like social media manager for the Detroit Lions. Like that's how this works. And like in the recent John Oliver HBO show, like he made a joke about Animal Crossing, like, oh, like, do we all know that Nintendo created the COVID virus so that everyone had to buy Animal Crossing or whatever? And it's like, you know, and you know, we all do know that, but we can't prove it, whatever.
Right,
it's like, okay, those we're getting jokes like that on like late night shows.
It's entered it's mainstream.
Yes, yes, in a really like a surprising way. I never would have expected this. I mean, honestly, like when as someone who's played the series from the beginning, yeah, like seeing like
the
weirdest
Nintendo franchise.
Yeah, like what was
it? Like there's Seaman.
Yeah, there's yes, exactly. If Seaman were the biggest game in the world right now, that's how I would feel. Like
yeah. Man, there's that alternate world right now where like we're all playing the new Seaman game during COVID, and it's like this giant hit.
Oh fuck, that is really.
And I wish I was living there.
Me too. That's really getting me, man. Oh, that's exactly what this is like. Yeah, and it's just so it's so wild for someone who's been with this series for this long to be like to see all this happen, and it's like, yeah, in a way it does make sense. It's like this very like mass appealing game, but no, it just like it's the little weird animal game that was on Nintendo 64 that got ported to GameCube. You never would have expected this for sure.
Yeah, I mean at first it didn't even come here on the Nintendo 64.
Right,
like, they're not gonna be interested in this weird thing.
Yeah. Yeah, like they had like
right.
Yeah, they had to like come up with like a new like, oh, it's a social life simulator. I remember that being
they didn't even know how to like, I don't think they even knew what to do with it.
Yep. Yeah.
The marketing part, which was great, was weird. It was like they marketed it like an MTV, like one of those like reality shows where everybody's
those commercials
in the house together.
Yeah.
Like they're funny. I don't know how effective they were as marketing, but
right. Yeah. But here we are. So who knows? That game's clearly just massive. Switch sales, though, the unit sales surpassed 55.7 million units, just really on a record-setting pace. Like the trajectory is right along, if not just ahead of where the PS4 was at this point in its life. So it's like, okay,
it's chugging along pretty nicely. There seems to be kind of some like concern about what they're gonna do like the rest of the year. Like their forecast seemed a little on the lower side, and just from like how we don't really seem to have a good sense of them having a really big like game for the holiday. Like it seems very clear that Animal Crossing was the big game for the year, right? Mm-hmm. And maybe ideally you would have wanted that in holiday. Although I guess with everything going on right now, I guess you're happy to have it come out when it did. You can't complain. But it does seem like, they might not like this momentum may die down at least momentarily for a little bit in the holiday, but maybe not. Maybe everyone's just going to want to get a Switch to get the Mario remasters and one other thing that they come out with, and the backlog is just so strong.
Dog's pissed. Right. Yeah, no, I would say that it's probably So, we didn't talk about this last week because we didn't have an episode, but, I did another report where it's like Nintendo's not going to have a June Direct to line up with when E3 would have been. And the reasons for that are exactly what most people would expect. It's COVID-19 causing work from home, and Nintendo's struggling with that. But Nintendo is like, and it's not just Nintendo, but a lot of Japanese companies are really struggling with that transition. It does not fit with their culture. They have a lot of there's a culture in Japan where people don't necessarily have defined work roles. It is very much about like meet up, communicate every single day, and everyone's going to be micromanaging each other and themselves. And we got to what are you working on specifically today? And here's what you need to be doing. And a lot of that stuff needs to happen face to face. But then also, Nintendo and a lot of other Japanese companies find it rude to work deals over online. They want to do that stuff face to face. They find that is a show of respect, and so they're very hesitant to make deals to put together an E3 Direct without being able to talk to these companies face to face. And then they're also just not confident that they can do a good show without being able to go into a studio. And then on top of that, they're not sure if they can really get their games finished. It's just a bunch of they're really hesitant about their future because of this stuff, and until they can get back into their studios to actually get this work done, I don't think they're going to feel confident. So a lot of the stuff that we were expecting from Nintendo, the Mario 35th anniversary stuff, they still haven't announced that, and if they're going to, it might not happen at a direct. They might have to say, oh, here's just a trailer, here's our announcement, on a web page. But I think they're not even sure that they're going to be able to hit their current release dates for that stuff. So yeah.
Jeff, I need to see what she's barking at.
Sure, go deal.
Sorry, my mother brought me half of a pizza that was left over.
No worries. Well, I'm glad your dog let you know your mom's there. That's very nice.
Yeah, she was very subtle about it too. All right, so yeah, Nintendo, I don't know.
Yeah, Nintendo, I don't know.
They'll be okay.
Exactly. I think that they'll figure this out. They'll get past this. It's just a rougher transition for them than other companies. I think when I put up the report, a lot of people were like, "Why can't Nintendo America or Nintendo of Europe do it? They seem to have their shit together." And I'm like, "Homie, I don't know. Ask Nintendo of Japan. They're the ones that are going to tell them no. They're the ones that don't want to hand this responsibility over." And I think a lot of it again has to do with that culture where they would find it to be offensive to do a lot of this stuff without meeting face to face. So
and I wonder if maybe they're going to get over that.
Yeah, right.
Everybody's culture. I never thought we'd become a mask culture like they are, and here we are all wearing masks now. So
right, and it was not that hard of a transition, right? We just did it.
Right. I don't know. Maybe Japan's a bit more rigid culturally. I don't know, but I think it would certainly be to their benefit to get over it a little bit.
Yeah, a lot of this stuff is just they stopped advancing their sort of work processes in the 90s. So there's still a lot of they send a lot of faxes to complete deals, and they don't put anything in the cloud. No one even talks about cloud storage or cloud computing in Japan in a lot of cases. Oh, let's all put our project into this one cloud repository so we can all access it from different. It's no thumb drives, stuff like that, actually handing over hard drives to one another. That's just the way they've done business, and it wasn't going to change because they didn't need to. And it worked really well with their everyone needs to be in the office every day for a long time so that we can really talk about what we're working on. I think you're right. Now that they are faced with a crisis that forces them to rethink those situations, they will. If you don't make as much money, and that's the real purpose of this business is to make that money. They'll figure it out. So I'm not too worried.
You think Switch is getting a price drop this holiday when the new consoles come out?
I think it's possible.
It seems like it's time. It seems like one, it's time, and two, you have the new console, so what else can you do?
Right. If you put the Switch out at $250 even, that's probably going to be half the price of these other systems. And if you put it at $250 with a bundled game, if you put it $250 with Mario Kart 8 or with Zelda or Mario Odyssey, any of those really, that's going to be, if I'm a parent who needs to get a present for kids and I don't have a console already, well, boy, that's really, especially when these new systems, even at $500, are going to be really tough to track down. That seems like again, maybe Nintendo doesn't need to cut the price, but if they do, boy, I think that really does make the thing fly off the shelves. So, and the thing about the Switch is as good as the hardware is selling, we talk about like, oh, it's keeping track with PS4, like in terms of its overall life trajectory. Where it's way ahead of the PS4 is in terms of like the attach rate, where people are just buying games like crazy. Anyone who gets a Switch just buys a ton of games.
Right. Seems like if you buy a Switch, there's like 4 games you automatically buy, then like a bunch of other ones you're like gonna buy, like probably. Like I feel like the average Switch owner like owns a lot of games more so than maybe like a typical PlayStation 4 owner.
And I think that's been that's bared out in the evidence in the numbers. And I think what's happening is like the Switch is just turning a lot of people into people who play indie games. Where you get all these Nintendo games, but it's like this is a great place to play all those indie games you've always heard about or are interested in, and now like you have a way to play them no matter where you are, and that's just a huge deal. So I think cutting the price is not like going to be some detriment to Nintendo, because they will make a lot more money on the other end where people are buying more games, or even just like playing Fortnite and buying microtransactions, stuff like that. So yeah. I think that does it for the news. We there was a lot that did happen. We did miss that week, so I wanted to catch up. But I think we got everything.
Been busy. Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, let's go ahead and hop into what we've been playing. Does that sound good to you, Mike?
Right, because I mean, I guess one thing we didn't really talk about was Assassin's Creed Valhalla, aside from its showing at the Microsoft thing, and I guess like it just kind of tied into like how like I'm finally playing Animal Crossing Odyssey. Really, like I started it.
Wait, what? When it was no, stop. Did you just do that? Did you just say Animal Crossing Odyssey? You didn't even just say like AC Odyssey, and like you weren't just thinking it in your head.
God,
that really just broke me too. I'm like, wait, what is going on? Like, cause I mean, I totally the AC. Like everyone's saying like AC like as the short term for either one of the series. It's like, wait, which one are you talking about? But you just said it out loud.
Now I just took it to a new level.
Yeah. So
there's nowhere to go though.
Yeah, you're playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey. That's a great game.
Yeah, it is. It's great. Oh my god. But I mean, I don't know why I think we talked about it back when it was out, but like I just barely played it for whatever. There was like a timing issue or what.
Sure, it's a big game too. It's a meaty game.
I think it came out right around the same time as Red Dead Redemption 2. That seems right. And I was playing that first, and after I was done with that, I'm like, I don't necessarily want to play another giant open world game right now.
Sure.
But you know what? It's been a while since I played a giant open world game, to be honest. Like not really since Red Dead, almost. I feel like there hasn't really been a lot of those games lately. I feel like maybe like the burnout finally happened. It seemed like.
I think you're right. So, yeah, I think part of that's just like saving it for the next gen, I guess, or like reload. Right. Like now's a good time to reload if you're going to reload. I think.
Right.
So.
I mean, there's games kind of like I guess Death Stranding is kind of one of those, but not really. So
no, yeah.
So. I was like, yeah, I can kind of go for this now, and yeah, it's super fun. I like how, it's very big, and it's the environments are just ridiculous. They're so good looking that it's just absolutely jarring when you talk to a person, especially like the nondescript NPCs. They are butt ugly, and they have these crazy over exaggerated arm motions that like don't match up with what they're saying at all. And it's like, man,
if they're in a rave while talking to you,
like, it's like, man, I don't want to say that like what Rockstar did for Red Dead is like better because it looks so much better. Because I know there was like a big cost of like human sanity,
human souls,
yeah. But it's like, man, there sure is a difference. I'll tell you what.
Yeah, but like, I mean, does that for me? That stuff, like, okay, yeah, I noticed that difference too, and I agree with you. And then also, I don't think it matters because I had way more fun with Odyssey than I did with Red Dead Redemption 2.
See, I don't see. Well, you were always anti. Not always, but like you never got into Red Dead. I loved Red Dead still, and I still like that more than this. Like,
okay,
like the quests in general in Odyssey aren't that interesting, and especially like the side quest quality is pretty low. Like there's a lot of like almost not randomly generated, but there's like a lot of like
it feels
basic
that way,
a lot of basic side quests. A lot of times like you go talk to a person and you can like it's literally the characters like saying like canned things. The person will be like, here's my problem. You'll be like, so you're saying you want me to go and kill all of the Athenians. Right? No. like and again, it's fine, but there's a difference between Red Dead Redemption, everything was pretty individually crafted, or even like something like The Witcher 3 in terms of like side
Sure,
quest
yeah.
quality. There's a bit of a difference.
I think Ubisoft has acknowledged that that was one of the issues with Odyssey, where I would call that stuff bloat, and it's low quality bloat. I think that's what makes something in a game bloat in the first place. And it just doesn't need to be there. The game has enough anyhow. You don't
Right, like that game. Yeah, exactly. That game is gigantic and huge. Like, yeah, it did not it didn't need that stuff. Also,
it just drags down the overall like the experience of it.
right, like
Even if
like
you do
pretty
start
quickly.
ignoring it, it's like still just kind of like that stuff gross.
Right, like pretty quickly, I'm like, there's like a zillion story quests and like other things I could just be doing naturally. Like, why do I need to go to the signpost and do like these dailies?
Yeah,
Like
and
part of it was like a lot of weird, like trying to like integrate more live service stuff into it. Because like there's literally our daily quests. I'm like, what is this about?
yeah.
Even Control was doing that. Like, here are your daily quests for Control. I'm like,
Yeah,
what the hell? I don't.
and Control and Odyssey both do the thing where it's like, oh, here's a sudden like world event that you should go do. Oh, here's
Yeah.
here's someone tracking you down in Odyssey, like a bounty hunter or whatever. And it's like I had some fun with the bounty hunters in
The bounty
Odyssey.
hunters I like. I think that's
Yes,
good.
yes, I think there is some good stuff there. But also, at a certain point, like it's like, oh, I'm just gonna run away from this one right now because I do want to just go do the story thing. This is just getting in the way. And I got to the same point with Control, which is, I guess, that's fine. You're allowed to like ignore it, putting that stuff in there, and then me ignoring it. I think is a fine sort of balance for a player to have with a game. But I do think there is always the risk of feeling like, okay, just leave me alone with this shit. Actually, I just want to play the game you made. Just get out of my way a little bit. So
I almost
think,
kind of like missed that the super simple structure of Assassin's Creed 1, which everybody criticized, but like I liked it in a way. It's like, yeah, go to the place and you do
yes,
the three little things,
yeah.
then you go to the big fortress and kill a person. Like,
Okay,
yeah, okay.
I was like, what are you talking about? That game is boring. But I
No,
think I agree with you on that stuff. That structure was pleasant. It's easy to like just say, okay, I'm going here to do the big assassination. That's what I want to do. Just funnel me to that right away. And it's like, okay, I get you there. I agree with that. But
Yeah,
like
I'm a bit of an
I think the
I'm a
series
bit
has a
of an
lot of like
Assassin's Creed
peaks and
1
valleys, right?
defender.
What were you saying?
I'm a bit of an Assassin's Creed 1 defender.
That's fair. I played that game and was just like, this is not as good as like the Prince of Persia games, and it's not as good as those early trailers made it look. I think it's just kind of forgettable. But I agree with the structure argument. But then when I went to go play like Brotherhood, I'm like, oh, this series is fantastic. And then it wasn't as good as that for like a long time. I think even a lot of people like Assassin's Creed 4, the pirate one.
4 was cool, but I mean, mostly because of the ship stuff. Like the actual
Right.
Assassin's Creed stuff in there was not did not feel as interesting as it did in Assassin's Creed Brotherhood.
Right. And then I think like Odyssey is just a really it's easy to play. And I know that's not very helpful, like as a descriptor
Right.
of
I was very nervous just like jumping back into it after like a year and a half
Mhm.
because like I played enough that I basically just got through like all the starting stuff. It
Right.
was like in the actual world. I was like, am I really gonna be able to just jump back into this? But it was relatively pretty easy. It
Right.
was fine.
And it's like at a certain point I'm just like that is what I want. I think from at least from some of these big open world games where it's just like, just throw me in there, let me go run around and explore some really beautiful environments with stuff to do, and I'll have a good time. And I think that I think this game nails that stuff. It nails that part of this genre in a way that a lot of games don't. Even a lot of Assassin's Creed games. I don't think Origins nailed that stuff as much. I
Yeah,
had
I
way more
thought some
fun
of
with Odyssey.
the side quests and Origins were like even extra bad.
Right.
There's a side quest that's like a thing with like again the gameplay for how like I kind of want to see like are you addressing that? Instead all I got was just
Right.
here are Vikings, like here they
Yeah.
literally are. I'm like, yep, that is them.
Yes, that those are Vikings. You have shown me those. Well done. Yeah, I don't know. I'm glad to hear you're playing it though. Are you gonna stick with it? Like, I mean, it is a long game.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I heard it's like really long, so I don't know if I'm gonna beat it, but I'm still playing it for now. Like, I'm not putting any undue pressure on myself or anything. But
Yeah.
I'm having fun. I'll stick with it for a bit.
Another game I've been playing is Streets of Rage 4. How about you?
I've actually, oh yeah, I beat it once, so I probably need to try it on hard mode and maybe unlock some more characters. But,
Yeah, I played through it once as well with Stephanie, and then I've started a couple times on hard mode by myself. We just haven't had a time to play together again since. Which she loves Streets of Rage. She has since she was a kid, and we've gone back like pretty much yearly to play Streets of Rage 2 at least, and some of the other ones as well. And so when this was coming out, I'm like, I told her about it, and she's like, oh, and then they were like, oh, we're gonna get you a code this week, and she's like, okay, do you have it? Do you have it? And then they're like, oh, we need to delay it for a couple weeks, and she was like,
Oh
what
no.
the hell? Why'd you even tell me? I'm like, I'm sorry. But we got it, and then we played it the night that we got the code, and we played all the way through it right away, and it was a really good time. It's really fun. I think the key for me is punching people feels fantastic.
It feels super good.
It's
And
so immediate, right? Like you press the button and it's already happened. It's so good. But yeah, how
I
about
just
you?
yeah, well, I really love, and I haven't played any of the old ones in a while, so, and I'm pretty sure it wasn't like this, but I love, like, typically in beat 'em ups, you have a special move and you use
Mhm.
it and you just lose life, and that's like the thing with it. So a lot of times you're like, you kind of don't want to use them. Here, if
That's
you
what Streets
use
of
like
Rage, the old games did do that. Yes, that's exactly how it
right,
worked.
and in this one, like, you use a special move and you like lose your life, but you can get back that life by attacking. And as soon as you take any damage, then that's it. You like can't get back any more of that life. So it's a very cool kind of risk reward thing that I think adds just like a little bit of depth to make these games a bit more kind of interesting and not quite so button mashy in a way.
Yeah, it makes you willing to use your special in a way that just you're right. You didn't want to use it in the old game, and now it's like I think that work. It's kind of like how Bloodborne works, where it's like you chip back your life by doing continuing your combo, and because of that, it's like, oh, okay, this game wants me to be using my special move way more than the old games, and that like it's like okay, there's a lot more variety in the way you can be approaching any situation. Um, even like the basic moves, it's like you have your punch, but then if you hold down that punch afterwards, you get a bigger attack afterwards, and just like throwing in and like there's double forward attacks and stuff like that, and I feel like there's a lot more in the repertoire. Like and you could prove this because you unlock Streets of some people consider this a spoiler, but I think there was a trailer about it, so I'm gonna say it. But I mean, if you don't want to know anything about this game, just go play it right now. You unlock the classic characters, and they look just like their old Genesis models, and they play just like their old Genesis models. And those characters, their move sets are much more limited. Like you just pretty much just have the punch and maybe a throw and stuff like
Right.
that.
Yeah, it wasn't quite as much fun to play as them actually.
Right. And it's like I think it's interesting, and I think there's value in having that in there and being like, you know what, let's
Right.
try to beat this game with just that stuff. This is a different game. Can I just beat it with those characters? And it's like unlike your third or fourth playthrough, I think there's like value in having that stuff there. But you're right, it's like up front, like that's definitely not the way to play. Having all these other moves, it's like this is much more rewarding. I feel like I am engaging with systems in a way that even the old beat 'em ups never did. So yeah.
What character did you play as on your beating it playthrough?
Um, I think I Steph just was Blaze, and I think I went through all the other ones. I started as what's the roller skating girl? I can't remember her name now. Shell
Nah,
or
I can't
something
remember
like
her
that.
name either.
And then there's the big brute guy, and then I finished as not Adam, but Axel. But then once we unlocked Adam, I started playing as him a lot because Adam's got a really good back kick. So if someone gets behind you, he's got enough range where I could continue attacking forward, and then as someone starts approaching my back, I could just do that back kick and keep them away from me. And it's like, okay, so this is the character that might get me through on hard mode and stuff like that. But yeah, I've been I think this game's really good for replaying, not just because of those unlockable characters, because it's like, oh, it also has like the classic music, and it has a really good like CRT filter. So, the first time I played through with the modern graphics, with the modern characters and the new music and all that stuff. And it looked great. It sounded great. I don't think the music's quite as memorable. I think
Well, I mean, like Streets Race 2 is like one of the all-time best soundtracks, right? So
right. What are you gonna do there?
yeah,
But
it's
like
very good though. Still,
yeah, I think it's still very good, right? But so that was a great experience, and now like when I go back another time, it's like I don't have to just play that again. I can just not just pick a different character or play one of these classic characters. I can then put on the CRT filter and put on the classic music, and it's like, oh, this is like quite a bit different. And it's a game that we were gonna replay anyhow because that's how we play these Streets of Rage games. So I'm glad it has all that stuff in there. It feels like this is going to be a fun game to revisit over and over time.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really happy with it. I think it met my expectations, and I think for Stephanie again, who is a bigger fan than I am of the Streets of Rage games, I think it exceeded hers, and she's really happy with it.
Yeah, I think it exceeded mine.
Yeah.
Pretty good. I was surprised how much, because like there's a part of me that's like, I used to like beat 'em ups, but I don't know, is that really fun anymore?
Absolutely.
And I actually had a great time with it. So that was super fun.
Absolutely.
And I played that bruiser guy pretty much most of it, because I felt like I was just destroying with him compared to some of the other ones. I don't know why. I just like got into a groove with him, especially like that move where you can like kind of like grab people from a distance and you can literally like carry them around before you throws them. I was like, oh hell yeah,
that's good. I like the roller skater girl. Her double forward doesn't just do a double forward attack. She also like can rush across the screen in a way that most other characters can't. And that's
she's the only person that has like the dash.
Yes. Yeah.
Or not the dash, but yeah, well, like an actual like running.
A sprint.
I like the guy you unlock was
Adam.
Fun too. That's the one that's one I want to play as.
Yeah, he's great. He's really good. Again, that back kick is really useful. But all his stuff he's really good. I got through probably about halfway through the game on hard, just playing with him, just me alone. So it's like, okay, this is possible, and this is a good character to do that with. So definitely. Any other thoughts about Streets of Rage 4? Or should we move on?
Just that, man. I can't even tell you what I would do to have those people make a new Ecco the Dolphin.
Yeah, man. It's like, what are they going to do next? Like they could. I feel like there's a wealth of games that they could choose from, and anything that they did I'm going to be paying attention to. But like something like Ecco the Dolphin would be very, very good.
I think it was them who pitched a new DuckTales game and got denied, right? So
I think that's right. Yeah, Lizard Cube. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I was pretty devastated by that because that would also be amazing. But Ecco the Dolphin, oof, give me oof. Yeah. I'll tell you what I think about constantly was there was an Ecco the Dolphin game for the Dreamcast that everyone liked. Like, it was reviewed very well. Yeah. And it was like, a critical hit, and no one talks about it anymore. Like, all these other Dreamcast games, people won't shut the fuck up about them.
Yep.
Right? Like, you still have to hear about Jet Set Radio and Someday Amigo, which, I get. They're great games. Skies Arcadia. No one ever even remembers that this 3D Ecco game existed. Everyone liked it. I swear. It's like everyone just forgot.
I never played it, but I remember people I remember that reception. I remember everyone really loving it. And I'm like, this game got great reviews. I need to check it out someday. And I barely even like saw the game in motion ever. It was like some screenshots here or there, like small screenshots in a magazine. So the other day when I was setting up my my RetroArch on my upstairs PC to get like a bunch of classic stuff working, the Dreamcast was giving me a huge pain in the ass. I just couldn't get it running, and the reason was I want to play Ecco the Dolphin. Like I'm getting this set up so I can play Ecco the Dolphin finally and get that and see what this game is all about. And I finally did get it working, but of course by the time I was done, I had no time to actually play the game. So, but yeah, I have that ready to go. I have it downloaded. It's on the computer, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna play that, and we're gonna talk about it, Mike.
Yes, please.
We're gonna bring it back.
I want to play it too. I wonder because like that, I wonder how it's aged. Like what?
I know. Yeah. I'm like I want to see what people liked in the first place, but I also I'm just curious to see like how those kinds of like Sega Dreamcast games are doing these days. Like what is it like? Because they didn't have the dual analog sticks, so a lot of like 3D games on that platform were really rough. They're rough to play.
I think
today.
that is the thing people say is that it is harder to play today because you don't have a second analog.
Right.
So what are you gonna do?
Right. Yeah, but I'm excited to give that one a shot.
They did port it to PlayStation 2, but like the port wasn't as well received for whatever reason. You think it would have benefited because there would have been an extra controller there, but like I'm looking at the Metacritic for the Dreamcast version was at 84. The Metacritic for the PS2 was a 71.
It's like Ecco like Warrior of Time or something like that.
Defender of the Future, which
Defender of the Future. That's a very good subtitle.
That is the Ecco games had fantastic stuff. The Tides of Time.
Yeah. There's like some really good like eco warrior sci-fi like paperback novel quality to Ecco the Dolphin overall, and especially the subtitles.
Ecco Dolphin's great because it's ridiculous, but it takes itself dead seriously.
Yeah. Yes, for sure.
Like everything, like this is not a cartoon dolphin. This is just what a dolphin looks like, and maybe that's why Lizard Cube might not be a great for it really because they typically do kind of more cartoonish
They
things.
cutify
I
things a
think
little bit, yeah.
right. I think they could.
Right. Yeah,
adjust a
they would
little
have to,
bit.
like, it's like if they could make a photorealistic dolphin and then everything else could sort of be like a
Right,
little,
like so stylized and bright colored and
yeah.
everything, but like but man, I would sure like a new Echo the
There's
Dolphin.
just I can imagine like there's a girl in your class in like 6th grade that has a whole series of novels about this dolphin that like fights stuff. That is where that
It's
entire
literally
game
what
comes
it is.
from. Yeah, and I'm like, there's something about that because you don't get that stuff anymore, not really. Or it's I'm like,
No, there's like Echo the Dolphin is a mood that like is not really matched by
yeah.
like anything else in video
Yes, the
games.
90s ended very hard, and that stuff got left behind. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Sorry for that
No,
diversion.
I'm
By
like,
the way,
I'm totally.
I think about that literally all the time. Like,
I honestly,
no
I do
one,
think about that game quite often too, and so I'm glad to hear that. Like, yeah,
no one
this is a
talks about it.
passion. Let's do something about it. Like, we
Like,
have
no one's
the power to do something.
You
Let's do
never
it.
see it like come up on like Games Done Quick or anything. Like people talk
Right?
about
Yeah.
like Happy Birthday Dreamcast. Here's my favorite Dreamcast game. No one brings up that. Like, everyone liked it. Right? Like I'm not crazy. Like
Yeah, and it's like, yeah, and it's like it's not like, like the Sonic Adventure games where it's like people are like, oh, those games were never good. It's like they just stop. It just stopped existing. It fell out of the popular conscience.
Oh my god! Don't even get so. There was like the fifth one where it's like, what's your hot video game take? And of course, like someone's like, Mario 64 isn't even good. I'm like, oh my god. And then like the one person was like, honestly, Sonic Adventure has aged better. And I just wanted to scream, that is just objectively incorrect. Like Sonic Adventure like has like the awful lip syncing with characters talking over each other with like the bad cutscenes and like you fall through the ground constantly. Like it has just objectively aged worse than I get so tired having to. That's the thing with Twitter,
Yeah.
is that everybody with bad opinions can group up and make a bad opinion seem popular. And
Right.
I feel like I live in a crazy world where I have to defend Mario 64.
Yeah, I should never have to feel like I have to defend Mario 64. That is absurd. That
Right,
is.
like that game should be able to speak.
I am dealing with enough that I shouldn't have to deal with that too. Absolutely, that is just that is infuriating. Like the only logic by which you could say that Sonic Adventure aged better is in that it was bad then and it's still bad now, and it's like, oh, so it's just consistent. Yeah, it's on the same exact
I'm not gonna
level.
lie. I loved Sonic Adventure when it came out. I won't lie.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
what
fine,
would
totally.
I rather play now? Like, come on.
Right. Oh, it's not even close. Like
Not
we could test this too. We could just give these games to like kids today, and I guarantee most would enjoy Mario 64. They would be like, this is a weird controller. The camera controls are a little bit weird. And then 10 minutes later, they would be having fun. And the same is just not true of Sonic Adventure. No way.
No, I think they would get bored pretty quickly.
Exactly.
Especially if they don't start playing as Sonic, right? Like, you're gonna play as Big the Cat. Have fun fishing.
Oh man, I don't know.
Right,
kids love all those bullshit Sega characters now. So yeah, I don't know.
Oh man, I feel so much better. That was two big ones I've been.
Yeah, no, I'm glad. Yeah. This is what this is about. We just gotta get this shit off our chest, Mike. That's what we're here for.
Yeah. I was about to go another tangent after I just saw that apparently Echo the Dolphin came out for Game Gear. I'm like, what the hell was that like? But
I think my friend had that, and I think I played it, and it's like most Game Gear games. It's like hard to play because it's blurry and
like
the camera's too close. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but it was like it looks good in screenshots and stuff, so it's like it's easy to sell. Yeah. I've been playing some games. I'm just gonna talk about two of them. Lonely Mountain Downhill. I talked about that before. It was on Game Pass. I think it's still on Game Pass. It definitely is, and it's but it's also available everywhere. But now it's on Switch, and it's great on Switch. It plays excellent, and it's this game where basically you're just riding a bike down a mountain, and it starts off with like there's a chill option where like just get to the end and you do whatever, and you can like. There's no time limit, and don't worry about that stuff. And then later, as you are trying to progress, you have the option to like do some really hard challenges. And I love that stuff. But I think it's a really good pace where it's like you go up and down in terms of the difficulty if you want, and you can really, really challenge yourself and really try to do like, get down this mountain in less than 2 minutes, and also with fewer than 10 bales or whatever. And it's like, okay, yeah, that sounds really hard. I'm gonna give that a shot. And then you just you start over from the beginning over and over until you could perfect this run. And I really love that sort of gameplay. And this game nails it. And it's on the Switch and it runs great. And I'm playing it all the time. And it's the kind of game where I'm like, where I have a couple of minutes, I can just pick it up and get a couple of minutes in. But oftentimes that turns into longer play sessions where I'm just continuing to play it because it's so good. So I if people saw this game, like, yeah, if you have Game Pass and like you don't want to pay for it on Switch, yeah, just go play it there. But if you were like, oh, I want to, that sounds like a cool game, I want to have anywhere, definitely pick it up on Switch. It's excellent. The other one is SnowRunner, which I'm obsessed with. It's all I want to play. It's really good. So SnowRunner is the successor to MudRunner, which was the rebranded version of Spin Tires, which people might remember from Steam in like 2012 or something like that. And if you remember it, you'll probably remember like, oh, there were like GIFs going around of a tire running through mud and deforming the mud in a realistic way, and it looked really good and really satisfying. And I saw that and I'm like, I want to play that game, and I got it on Steam and I played it a ton. And it was good. And once you start playing it, though, you discover it's like this really fascinating game about just like trying to move these trucks through extremely muddy environments and trying to like take wood from one place to the other, and it's like in the backwoods of Russia and Spin Tires, and oftentimes this truck you have that can move the wood, it just can't handle this terrain, so you get it as far as you can, and then it's time to bring in another truck, and then you hook up the trucks with a winch and you drag that truck out of the mud, and it's really satisfying. I really like that stuff. So SnowRunner, as the name suggests, is now taking that concept and then adding in a bunch of snow levels. Although the first level is Michigan and it's mostly focused on mud. And the game is much more Americanized. Since Spin Tires, the developer, I think the original developer is not even on the game anymore. I think Focus Home Interactive has purchased the property, turned it into MudRunner, but it's still basically the same game. It's just now you could tell it's like for a Western audience where like there's Chevys and Fords and Fleet Stars and like trucks that you recognize. Yeah, and it's like and I really liked the like sort of Soviet era trucks I was driving in Spin Tires, but it's cool also to feel like I'm in a Chevy commercial with like Bob Seger playing Like a Rock in the background. Like that's what this game feels like a lot of times. And I think the reason I love this game is like you people like describe football as, oh, it's a game of inches.
You people.
Yeah, no, you people describe football as a game of inches. What's wrong with you people? No, but this game's very similar, where it is every inch of progress that you get is a struggle. It is so much work. Getting giant trucks filled with huge loads of steel, just to go from like one tree to the next. It takes so much like effort. Like you have to like look at the terrain, and the terrain actually matters. When you look at the terrain, if there is a muddy track that looks like your tire's going to get stuck in if you drive through, yes, your tire's going to get stuck if you drive through that muddy track. So how can you sort of angle it so that like the tire's sort of fighting against that track and pulling itself out while also dragging itself forward? And is there a tree that you can winch on? Oh, it's a little tree. Yeah, try to winch onto that. You're just going to pull that tree out of the ground. It's not going to do you any good. So okay, well now there's no other trees around. I got to bring in this other truck and try to drag it out. And most of my trucks are kind of shitty right now. So it's like, what truck can even get up here? And is it too light to actually do any good? It's like all this really, it's all this like minutia and thinking about the details of interacting of the interactions between these big trucks, the physics of these trucks and the physics of the world, and just the way that the actual ground moves when it meets a giant tire. And I found that thinking through those processes is really satisfying, and I just I like I said, I'm obsessed with it. I did like a review in progress where I'm like, oh, I've played this game for 15 to 20 hours, so I can kind of give you an idea, but I'm still nowhere near finished with the game. I think I'm like approaching finishing the first area of Michigan, and then there's like another area that I'm about to get to, which I barely scratched the surface of. And then that doesn't even count like, okay, then there's an Alaska map, which has, all the snow that I haven't even really dealt with because I've been so focused on Michigan. So there's a ton here, and it feels like That's exactly what I want from this game. I want to be able to go back to this game for months and just like, okay, today I'm going to focus on these couple of missions where it is just like, okay, let's fix up this bridge, and then there's a thing on the other side of this bridge where I need to bring like some wood, some metal, and some supplies or whatever, some food for like the farmer over there or whatever. And that's like, okay, like that's like an accomplishable set of goals. But that's also going to take like 2 to 3 hours, 4 hours. It's like, that's my, it's a really long play session for me. So, and it's just, there's a ton of this in the game. It's all like spread across the map. And I think they've really nailed like what players are going to want from this, where it's like, yeah, if you want to play this game for a really long time, it's always going to be satisfying. Come back and play it for a really long time. And then on top of that, it has multiplayer. So you can take on all these challenges where instead of you driving a truck up a mountain and then bringing up another truck and trying to drag that truck out of the mountain, and it'll like have some AI where it's like, okay, now that you're trying to drag this truck on, the other truck will turn on and start spinning its tires trying to get out. But now you, like with multiple players, you can all sort of work together and take on more challenging obstacles that really wouldn't be possible unless you have like 3 to 4 people all working together, getting trucks positioned to drag other trucks out of the mud and stuff like that. It's really well done. It's exactly my kind of game, and they really did a good job with it. I think if I have any complaints, I do wish that the multiplayer was more persistent. Where if I'm like, I wish it was like drop in, drop out, where like the world always like, if you want to go back and work on this world on your own for a little bit, it's there for you to do. Just go in and complete some goals, and you're all working towards a set of world goals together. Instead, it's like, some players are jumping into your world, and if you're not available, well, then they're gonna have to go play another person's game and work on goals in their world. And I don't think that would. I think what I'm asking for there would be objectively better, having sort of a shared world experience. I'm glad they have multiplayer at all. Like having multiplayer is better than not having multiplayer, but I don't think this is the ideal setup for it. But whatever. I'm mostly going to play this game by myself anyhow, and in that experience, it's been flawless. So, yeah.
You sure do like this mud truck game.
Mike, I like this mud truck game, and I think I could have just said that, huh? And we could have just got out of here. I like the mud truck game. It good. Yeah, I don't know. I think if anyone's interested in it, again, Game Pass has Mud Runner, so you can kind of get an idea of like, oh, is this game even for me? Try it on there, see if it is. It works really good with the controller. It works good with keyboard and mouse. I've been playing with the wheel over here, the Logitech wheel, with the pedals and stuff, and I love playing that way. That's like my favorite. But yeah, it works really well with the controller. So go give that a shot and see if it's for you. Snow Runner is definitely better though. It's just got more variety. The snow actually does, like the little bit I've played in the snow, it's like that really is a different challenge. And it's great to have that stuff. I like having like Chevy trucks. It's cool just to see trucks that like, oh, I recognize and they're fully branded and stuff like that. So yeah. So if you like try Mud Runner, like, yeah, this seems pretty good. Definitely pick up Snow Runner. It's worth it for sure. All right, Mike. Anything else?
No, that's about it.
Yeah, I reviewed the Ryzen 3 chips, but we don't need to talk about those. You guys can check out my review.
Yeah, you know how
on
much I love
GameSpeed.com.
hardware reviews.
I know you're big on hardware. Yeah. Yeah, I think you got the bleeps and the bloops in your computer, and you know all about those. So I won't bore you with something that you're so familiar with.
I know that the fan for my computer right now lights up, so that must mean it's pretty nice.
Yes, exactly. All right, I think that's going to do it for us then. Thank you to everybody for listening. Let's go ahead and tell people where they can find us on the internet. Let's start with Michael Minotti.
I am Tolkoto on Twitter, TOLKOTO, and check out 90s Disney, my podcast about Disney in the 90s. Latest episode was about the Swan and Dolphin resorts. The one's right next to Epcot, so that was fun. So yeah, 90sdisney.com or wherever podcasts are.
It was fun. I liked that episode. Ooh. Yeah,
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was. I'm like, yeah, I like whenever you guys talk about the buildings and stuff. Although I also liked the interviews about the not Treasure Planet. What's the other one? Atlantis.
Yes, Atlantis. My favorite thing was there was smack talk between the architect for the Swan and Dolphin, which was like the hotels right next to the Yacht Beach Club. He's like, "Oh, those are like the servants' quarters." I'm like,
Yeah.
"Man, this
Yes,
is
that stuff's fun.
hoity-toity bullshit, and I'm here for it."
Yes,
So,
that's yes. I that the architect beef is very good.
architect beef, it's great.
I'm Jeff Grubb on Twitter, also on Twitch, and then youtube.com/Jeffrey Grubb. Yeah, but you can always get more of us on gamesbeat.com. Come there, say hi. I also have my other podcast, How Games Make Money. New episode went up, today, yesterday. Whenever you're listening to this, go ahead and check that out.
Who's on the new episode?
Her name is Dill Canal, and she is from AppLovin, and she explains how even in the very crowded mobile market, there is still a viable way for like people to come in and make money through their games, even if like you're just trying to support a 10-person studio. That's possible, and it's like through tools like the kinds that they have, and we talk about how that works and how like in the very moment that like you're about to see an ad in a game, there is someone bidding on like whether or not they're going to get to show their ad, and that is all happening in like a 3-second moment, and it's fascinating stuff. And then next week I think I will be talking to a YouTuber. So, I know that's big with the kids. Check that out, everybody. All right, let's get out of here. Let's say goodbye to the good people.
That's enough of that. All right, bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. We'll see you next week. Until then, have a good one. Bye.